Welcome to the Manifestation and Money podcast, where we bridge the worlds of the taboo topic of money with the woo-woo world of manifestation. We're your hosts, Chris and Jenny Schultz.
We're not just about dollars and cents around here. We're all about lifestyle design. You can be working towards financial independence while still living a life you love today.
Get ready for insightful conversations with guests who have embraced the FIRE movement by achieving financial independence and retiring early, as well as entrepreneurs and individuals who defied the norm and have paved their own way to a life they love.
Together, we'll explore the powerful connection between mindset, financial freedom, and living a purposeful life. And of course, we'll be sharing our own journey to how we carved our path to a seven-figure net worth before hitting the big 4-0. Are you ready to ignite your financial future? Then let's dive right in.
Welcome to the Manifestation and Money podcast, where your journey to financial independence and the life you love begins now.
Hey, it's Jenny here, and I've got a fiery hot episode for you today. Today, my guest, Kristen Wonch, digs into hot money dates and shares a real story of a woman increasing her annual salary by 50%. Kristen Wonch is a wizard with numbers and has a knack for demystifying wealth. Welcome to the show, Kristen.
Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. Can you please share with the listeners a bit about who you are and what your story is?
Yeah, so I'm Canadian. I grew up in London, Ontario, which is a fairly small little town. And I spent years climbing the corporate ladder. I was working in Calgary, Alberta. I was checking all the boxes, achieving in the way that we're told that you should in society, right? And so I got a degree, went to school, got a great job, climbing the corporate ladder and just like making really, really good money and feeling deeply unfulfilled. And not realizing that I was really living a life that was totally out of alignment. And although I had checked a lot of boxes and I was making great money, I was, behind the scenes, it felt like a mess. I had a mountain of debt for my master's degree and from all the overspending I was doing. And, just really spending from a place of trying to fill up my emotions with spending. And so I think that is a place that a lot of people end up in. And I ended up getting laid off from one of my trading careers. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. That was when I really ventured into the world of entrepreneurship. And I started to realize that you could really build a life from a place of alignment and make incredible money and have an impact in the world. And the work that I now do is really empowering women around their finances and their money and teaching them how to create wealth and how to be powerful with money and how to earn at the level that they, deserve and desire, and how to clear all of the limiting beliefs and all the mindset blocks and all the old programming and patterns that gets in the way of you actually building the life of your dreams.
I really like that. And for you, coming from the story of you were in this place where you were just grinding it out and didn't really take off your blinders until you were forced to by getting laid off and be like, okay, now I get to go in and build the life I want to build. So you're kind of helping people just rip the Band-Aid off by choice and become empowered and go from there.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's really easy to stay in what's comfortable, right? And so even if what you're doing or the life that you're living doesn't feel fulfilling, or even if I was living in fight or flight, I loved my job in a lot of ways because it was really fast paced and there was a lot of challenge and it was mentally very stimulating and very rewarding in a lot of ways. But my whole nervous system was constantly stressed. I was always on. I was living in fight or flight. And so I didn't realize, because I was comfortable in that space, I didn't realize that there was anything outside of that, or that there was another option, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think we tend to live in the space of what's comfortable until we choose something else. And sometimes we choose something else because we're forced to choose another path or because things are cleared away. I think that's what happened in a lot of ways when COVID hit, is it cleared away a lot of what was there for people, right? And so it gave everyone, or a lot of people, the opportunity to create from a blank slate. It's like, what if you could actually have anything you wanted? What would you choose? Right. And so I think that sometimes, you can absolutely make shifts and make intentional choices to create a better life and a better financial position. And sometimes the universe gives you the opportunity to just create that by either introducing something or taking something away. And I think those are really powerful moments that you get to really grab onto.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well said. That is coming from a place of empowerment, sometimes not by choice, but to come from it from choice is life-changing for sure.
Yeah. Well, and to really lean into how it is an opportunity, right? Like when I got laid off from my trading gig, no part of me wanted that, right? And I was like, the uncertainty is really hard in a lot of ways. And now looking back on it, it was literally one of the best things that ever happened to me. And I don't say that because I'm just trying to make it all better. I say that because I never would have been able to live the life that I do now if I had stayed in the comfortable position of making money and being stressed.
Yeah,
That's something a lot of people miss.
definitely. And you're a money girl, so you help people with their money stuff, but you also said that you came out of $100,000 in the debt, which is a pretty big number, and you did it in just 2 years. So how were you able to do that?
A couple of years. I think it was more than two, maybe three or four. Part of it was, first of all, just really getting intentional with my spending decisions, right? Like instead of just, I think we get in this pattern of just spending everything we make. So the more I climbed the corporate ladder, I would get bonuses, I would increase my salary, and I would just increase my spending right along with it. So I wasn't making intentional choices, because I think that what happens when you spend emotionally is you earn more money and you feel like there's more money there. And so you spend based on your feeling, and you're not really saving a lot of it. And so getting really clear on like how much money is coming in and how much money is going out, like really taking the time now. Right now, one thing I love to do is sit down and have a hot money day every week, where every single week I'm sitting down with my numbers instead of being like an ostrich head in the sand about like money coming in and going out and just hoping for the best. The other thing I really shifted was I always believed that I could make more money. And so that I think put me into a place of, I don't have to worry about where it's going. But I realized, after years of running that pattern, that was not beneficial. It was not valuable to be like, I don't need to worry about my spending because I can just make more. Because if you do both, right, make more money, to the level of your ability, and also be intentional with your choices, your money just grows. So that was probably some of the biggest shifts. And also any money that came into my life, like big lump sums, my severance package or other things everyone gets bonuses if they work in corporate, right? Like whatever money is actually coming in that's like unexpected, or maybe you get a tax refund or an inheritance, right? That can be a really powerful way, instead of just, taking that and splurging on it. That can be a really powerful way to clear a lot of that away. And another thing that I think a lot of people don't really do intentionally is when you have debt, especially when you have it from a few different places, is like really get clear on like the interest rates of it, right? Like how can I roll over my debt into lower interest rate places, right? Can I shift a credit card into a line of credit? Can I, shift a line of credit into a personal loan? Do I have student loans that are only charging me, 2% that I'm not even going to worry about paying off because I have, some buffer there, and pay off all my higher interest rate debt first? Doing balance transfers on credit cards is another great way to do that. If you're really good and this is only for someone that's really good at managing money, but the bank will offer you a balance transfer to give you a year of a 0% loan, right? Like you might have a $20,000 credit card that you can balance transfer at 0% for a year, right? Well, they're banking on the fact that you're not going to pay it off in that year and you're going to end up owing them at the 20%. But if you're really good about it and you have a plan, you pay that off within the year, you've basically just got free money for a year.
That sounds like you said, you have to be really smart about it, because it sounds like it could be a slippery slope, and all of a sudden then you have a 22% interest payment at the end of that.
Totally. But yeah. And I actually don't often talk about that strategy, because a lot of people are just like, it's free money, and they'll make the minimum payments, and then the year rolls over and they're like, oh my God, what do I do? But that is again, if you can bring intentionality and you're sitting down with your money every week or every 2 weeks, it's not a problem, because you see when that's coming and you have awareness into the whole thing, and it can be a very powerful tool. Yeah. If you use it effectively.
Neat. That's a really cool insight there. Thanks for sharing that. And so what are some of the things that you've done then to empower your own personal relationship with money? I heard you say hot money date, and in the back of my head, I'm like, what the heck is a hot money date?
Yeah, a hot money date is literally one of my favorite things. So I think a lot of people have a relationship to money that doesn't feel great, right? We're taught, like we're socialized with a lot of things around money, whether it's programming from our childhood around scarcity, or just told from society you shouldn't spend, like spending is bad, or that you have to work really hard for your money. And so, or, for a lot of women, they just feel a little bit lost with numbers. They're like, I'm not good at numbers. I failed every single math test in high school. Like, this just isn't my thing. And when you can bring a ritual into it, which is I actually take myself out on a date. I will usually go to a restaurant, and I don't drink a lot, but I love a super fancy cocktail that's just amazing. And I'll buy myself dinner, and I'll sit down with my numbers, and I'll get clear on where all my money is going. I'll allocate it to, spending and savings and buy new investments. And I'll really spend that time and intentionality. It's like connecting the numbers that you have with your dreams that you're creating and the life that you're building is so powerful. And so, on my hot money date, it's like this ritual, but I also I get dressed up. I make it feel good. It's like, this isn't about sitting down with a budget and boring yourself to death. It's like a Friday night thing that feels really juicy and really yummy, because it's like the things that you're doing right now are creating everything you say you desire, both now and in the future. That's
really neat. I can see where you could connect with that. Most people are like, I need to look at my numbers, and it's a scary, or they have blinders on, they don't want to do that. But you're making it fun. You're dressing yourself up. You're treating yourself to some fun food or a fun drink. I would look forward to that.
Yeah. And if you have a partner, involve them, right? How fun is it for you both to be getting clear on your vision for life? It's what do we want for this next year, for this next couple of years? What are we building toward? Right. And that makes it a lot easier, I think, when it comes to, am I going to buy the Gucci bag, or do we really want this instead? It's a lot easier to make intentional spending decisions when you know what you're playing for. And also I'll say this, I think a lot of people that avoid their numbers or avoid their bank accounts or avoid looking at it, they think that it's going to feel worse when they do. And almost always the clarity actually makes you feel better, because you're like, oh, everything is actually organized. I have clarity on it all. And I feel safety and comfort and excitement around that, versus not knowing really what's going on. And our mind goes to, oh my God, it's horrible. Stuff is happening that isn't good.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. There we go back to empowerment once again. Yeah. So you have your own podcast, The Wealth Equation. And in your intro, you lead in with the perfect amount of woo-woo mixed in with your money building stuff, which I absolutely love, because we've mixed that into our life to get us to where we are. So I just have to ask you, what are your favorite personal, one or two woo-woo techniques or routines that you personally do?
Yeah. I mean, how do I make money? How do I manage money? What are we doing in the 3D? And that's really important. And then there's the beliefs that underlie that, right? It's if I believe myself to be the kind of person that can't earn $1 million, I'm not going to be making moves or making decisions that get me to that level. And then for me, there is the woo-woo, the energetic piece. It's the piece that's a little bit harder to explain. And so for me, I think some of the most powerful practices have been meditation and really creating space energetically for more to flow in with more ease, I think is important. Getting your nervous system out of fight or flight. I think that we've been socialized to believe in a lot of ways that making money and money has to be hard. And so we think that it's our actions and our doing that creates everything. But everyone can probably think of times when, they were just really in flow and felt really connected to what's going on, and things show up for them kind of as if magic, right? Or you're just feeling better about your life. So, Joe Dispenza is one practitioner that I love. I think he's really bridged the gap between sort of the woo-woo and the science, right? There's science behind why all of this works. And so, another practice I really, really like is not just in meditation, but when you visualize what you're creating, when you think about the amount of money that you want to have in the bank, or what you want to earn this year, or what you want your net worth to be, and you're visualizing or envisioning or thinking about a level that's beyond what you've created, dropping into what part of my body feels in resistance to that, right? And I think that takes you into sort of the subconscious, because if you're saying that you want to earn $1 million this year and your body doesn't actually feel safe to create that, you believe on some subconscious level that you'll become a target, or everyone in your family will start asking for money, or that people online will start bullying you, or that your great Aunt Sally will disown you from the family. If you actually believe, and consciously we're not aware of all these things, but the subconscious mind is so powerful that if you're in resistance to that, it will be keeping it away. It's the reason why lottery winners, most of them, I think like the stats are like 98% of them go broke within a couple of years because they can't hold the amount of money. Their nervous system doesn't feel safe. I would argue that also they probably don't have the money management skills to be managing that amount of money effectively. So both are important. But it's that energetic piece that it's like, there's science behind why it works, but it's also just allowing more in, like training your nervous system. It's like, how can I feel safe knowing that this is here?
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that, because I think that is a piece of money and wealth building and financial independence that is so often overlooked. People are just grinding it out from this place of lack, from this place of hardship. So to be able to connect and feel good about attracting money and making money and not feel guilty about it, it's a totally different space to be working from. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to flip the switch back to money here for a second. So what is your definition of financial freedom?
Yeah. For me, financial freedom, first of all, is having enough money in the bank to cover everything you could want for your life and being able to actually choose when and if you work. Like for me, that is really what financial freedom means. Of course, we do the work with money and the numbers have to make sense, but it's never about the number, right? We don't care that you have 2 million in the bank or 10 million. It's like, what are you going to do with that money? Why do you need that money? What is it going to allow you to create? And getting clear on that. You can want 100 million in the bank. You could want 10 million, whatever that number is, but like, what is that life that you're creating and how much do you actually need around that? And I think the other thing when it comes to financial freedom that a lot of people don't talk about is the life that you want is like really deeply yours. And I really believe that a lot of people don't question the typical path to what I mentioned before, checking all the boxes. It's like, go to school, get a good job, buy a house in the burbs with a white picket fence and have 2.5 kids. And it's like, is that really what you want? For some people, totally. And that's like the most fulfilling thing in their life. And that's amazing. But I think a lot of people don't even question, like, is this what I want? Mm-hmm. And that's, again, why I think COVID is so valuable, because we have this opportunity to really question. It's like, do I need to be in the office 9 to 5? Do I want to be working for this company? Is this even work that I like doing? Now that all of these other options are available to me, what would I do instead if I could? Do I want to live like where I live in Costa Rica? It's a tiny little surf town, you know, far removed from so many places, but it fulfills everything I want. Surfing, health and wellness, yoga, meditation, a super strong spiritual vibe, incredible, brilliant, game-changing humans that are building global impact businesses. And so for me, this is my dream life, but this would also be someone else's worst nightmare, right? Mm-hmm. You come to the jungle and a lot of the roads are not paved. The power goes out every once in a while. I think it's really important to get clear on what are the things that really light you up in life, right? Mm-hmm. Is it adventures? Is it travel? Is it really like having a super comfy home? Is it being really close to your family? Is it being, you know, immersed in nature and then creating the life that you desire? Again, just back to what I was saying, it's not about the number. It's about how that number allows you to get things that feel more fulfilling for you.
Yeah, that's well said. And to sit down intentionally choose what you want. You saying that made me think back to before Chris and I had kids. We didn't know if we were going to have kids. And I had this vision when we were getting our rental properties together. I nicknamed them Mexico because my vision was to one day we would sell them or to use the money from them to buy a place in Mexico where we could go back and forth for half of the year. And then we decided, okay, no, we're going to have kids. This is our plan. So we have that family vision now. And then as the kids started growing, to me, I'm like, I do not want to be in an airplane ride for 6+ hours to get to Mexico with the kids to stay at this place. So instead, we bought a lake house 24 minutes from our doorstep, which we go back and forth to every week if we want to, right? You have to decide what feels good to you. And it's okay over time to let your vision change, but you just be intentional about what do you actually want?
Totally. And I think that's a really great point too, is that vision for life will change over time as your values and your age and your place in life changes for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for touching on financial freedom, because that I think is really important for people to know, that it's not just a number in the bank account, it's the lifestyle that those numbers will allow you to have. And that's different for everybody. So you are obviously not a girl who believes that you need to grind something out to get your wealth. So what is an exercise that you could suggest to our listeners to try, that they could start doing to bring more ease into their relationship with earning money?
Yeah, this is something I spend so much time thinking about, like so much time, because one of my patterns for many years has been working hard for money. You know, I grew up in a house where my dad worked really, really hard. We didn't have a lot of money. And so it wasn't like money felt really abundant. And I think that in society, we were really taught to believe that you got to work hard for money. And so I believed for a long time, and there's definitely still programming there for me, that making money requires a lot of hard work. And so I think something that, and are most listeners, would they be business owners or do they work in corporate, or is there a bit of a mix?
A lot of the listeners are people that are either on their way in the FIRE movement or making the shifts into the FIRE movement. So yeah, a mix of entrepreneurs and a mix of wantrepreneurs, those people that are still sitting at their jobs that are like, get me out of here, show me the path.
Yeah. It's a similar philosophy, whether you work in corporate or you have your own business, but you sort of approach it differently. And so I think it's really focusing on like, what is the highest impact move that you can make to really get to the next level? And so I'll share a couple of examples just so people can sort of put it into context. As a business owner, it's the difference between trying to maybe post on social media every day or just posting on LinkedIn, hoping that clients are going to show up for you, and doing the hard work to build the relationship to get on like a stage that would expose you to thousands of people, right? The 10X moves are what's deeply uncomfortable. It's like, it feels a lot more comfortable to be sitting behind your email, reaching out to people here and there, versus making that bold leap or building a partnership with somebody that would get you in front of, again, their community of hundreds of thousands of people, and really working through like, what are all the limiting beliefs that are in the way that would stop you from doing that now? It's like, oh, I don't have enough experience. They're never going to say yes to me. You know, I'm not ready for that. Right. And so all of those things, I think it's the 10X move is outside of what you're currently doing now. And so when we think about what's going to get you to the next level or allow you to earn at a higher level without working harder, it's really connecting to what are those big power moves that allow you to grow at scale. And it's what's deeply uncomfortable often. And something similar appears if you're working in corporate and you're climbing the corporate ladder, except your trajectory is a little bit more defined. Whereas when you're building a business, there's so many different possibilities that you could be create. Like if you wanted to, you know, double or triple your income this year, there are a lot of ways you can do that as an entrepreneur. If you wanted to do that in corporate, you have a few options. You can either wait for their 2% raise every year that they're going to give you.
Yeah.
You can either negotiate for a much higher salary increase. I don't know, like 5 to 10%, whatever that could look like. It's going to be constrained depending on the business you're in, right? You could align yourself for a promotion at the same company and make a big, what potentially could be a big, bold move. Or you could look for a gig at a different company. Those are typically the 4 options you have to if you're in corporate. And so what I've always found is the last one is where my clients make the biggest leaps. I've had one client triple her salary in literally in 6 weeks, just by looking for, she was already qualified to do this, but she was working in a company that just like, it was feeling like a grind. She wasn't feeling appreciated. She wanted to make a move. And so she was reaching out, and what she ended up doing was reaching out to really industry heavyweights on LinkedIn and building relationships with them very quickly, just casually, like really exploring like what it would be like to work for their company. And she was employed, so she wasn't desperate to find another job, but she was in a position of, I'm really interested in making a big move. And I know I have the talent, the skill set, and the work ethic to really excel. And so she ended up reaching out to people that she thought were just way above her pay grade, right? Like she was like, they're never going to reply to me. There's no way. And we coached her through our work, coached her into, why wouldn't they? And she started getting a lot of responses, and she started having conversations and coffees with people and then interviews. And then before she knew it, she had not just one, but multiple job offers. I just had a client actually pop into our Facebook group yesterday. And I think she's at the moment making 75 or 80 grand a year and just got an offer for 120. And I was like, go back for 140. And this has only been a couple of weeks. So for her, it's really building the belief around, I'm incredible at what I do.
Mm-hmm.
The options that are available to me are so far, there's so many more that I can't even see right now just because I haven't been exploring them. What would it look like if I could earn? And this is the conversation we had on our first call, is like, what would it look like if you totally believed you could earn at the 140 grand level?
Mm-hmm.
And at first she was talking 120 grand. And then she was like, well, maybe I actually want to earn 140. And I was like, okay, let's make it 140. Right. And so it's not about the number. It's like about speak what you actually desire. And then we figure out how to get you there. Right. It's like, what positions, what jobs are you qualified for that you really excel at that are already paying that would love to have you? Who do I need to reach out to? Who do I need to talk to? What do I need to say to them? What are the skill sets I need to convey in a really compelling way? What do I need to demonstrate to them to make this a no-brainer for them to be excited to hire me?
Yeah, I like that too, because listening to you say that, you also put the spin on, maybe it's not always the monetary part that's the end goal. Maybe the person is like, I want the same salary, but I want just a 4-day work week. Like, what are the criteria that need you to be able to say yes to the job 100%? Because you're right. Not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. It's sometimes just a shift to a different job would be the perfect fit.
Yeah. And that was one of the things that I was working on with this client, is she works in the film industry in Toronto, which is, a very intense industry. And so one of the things that was a requirement for her is, I don't want to feel depleted after the end of my day. I don't want to work a 16-hour day. Like, I don't care how much money they're willing to give me. These are my requirements around my working hours. And so it's about just going after those opportunities because they totally exist.
Mm-hmm. That's lovely. So what is your biggest piece of advice for someone trying to create a lifestyle they love?
Probably two things. So really getting clear on like, what is it that you desire away from, friends or family or societal expectations, and really honing into like, what are the things that really light me up, and building your life from a blank slate. And the other thing that I think a lot of people don't spend enough time really understanding and knowing to the depths of their being is that you can literally create anything. Anything is possible for you. Like those examples that I've just shared around money, those women would have never believed that were possible for themselves. So we get really kind of stuck in this box of our current reality and all the things we have created. And we think that 10% more, 5% more, or like a small incremental shift is what's available for us. Well, it's like, no, anything is possible for you. You need to believe that it is and start making decisions that could get you there. But if you don't believe that that is possible, like your beliefs, in my world, your beliefs create your entire reality. So whatever it is that you want, believing that that's possible and believing that you're the kind of person that can figure that out, believing that you don't have to know the how, that you will figure out the how through the process of going after it. That's really what creates, whether it's a beach life that you want, or $1 million mansion, or enough money to pay for everyone in your family to go on annual trips around the world, whatever that looks like for you, you can have that.
Mm-hmm. That, I think, is the perfect way to end it on that powerful piece of advice. And where can listeners go to connect with you and get more of your wisdom?
Yeah, so I'm Kristen Wonch.xox on Instagram, KristenWonch.xox, or Facebook. And I'll actually share a freebie with your listeners that is what to do with your next 100K. So it gives them the full breakdown of, if anyone's wondering, where do I put my money? How do I prioritize money? How do I start thinking about that? It's a really beautiful, powerful, punchy way to help unpack that.
Okay, awesome. I will make sure to connect it in the show notes so it's easy for people to access.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me, Kristen.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Manifestation and Money podcast. If you enjoyed today's conversation and want to continue your journey to financial empowerment and creating a life you love, be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review.
Come follow us on Instagram at Manifestation and Money Podcast or at 4Leaf Lifestyle for more inspiration and behind the scenes content. Remember, your life is yours to live. Your financial freedom journey is as unique as you are. So hop in the driver's seat. It's time to create the life of your dreams.